Hello everyone, and welcome to the Database Overview lecture. So in this lecture, we're going to learn what are databases and why use databases. And after we answer those two fundamental questions, we'll get a sense of where this course fits in the realm of things. So let's start off with a basic definition. Databases are systems that allow users to store and organize data, and they're useful when dealing with large amounts of data. So you might be wondering, what do the typical users look like who deal with databases? Well, databases actually have a wide variety of users. These can include analysts, such as a marketing analyst, a business analyst, or a sales or sales operation analyst, or more technical people like data scientists, software engineers, or web developers. Basically, anyone needing to deal with data has a great use case to work with a database. So, since most users have some familiarity with a spreadsheet software, either Google Spreadsheets or Microsoft Excel, what we're going to do is discuss the transition from going from spreadsheets to databases. So let's go ahead and discuss some use cases for spreadsheets versus use cases for databases, and then leverage that knowledge to better understand databases. So spreadsheets are really good for a one-time analysis or to quickly need to chart something out, such as in Excel, and they work with reasonable dataset sizes, something that Excel or Google Spreadsheets can open up really easily. And what's really nice about spreadsheets is they allow the ability for untrained people to work with data. So anyone can just double-click an Excel file and open it and work with it. However, they do have downsides where databases really shine. So databases are really great for data integrity, meaning you don't want to have someone be able to just click on a cell and change the data. Databases don't really allow for that. And they can also handle massive amounts of data. Data sizes that would just basically make Excel or Google Spreadsheets crash. And they can also quickly combine different data sets, something that might be difficult to do for larger data sets in a spreadsheet. They also are perfect for automating steps for reuse due to the SQL syntax, which we'll learn about later. And they can also support data for websites and applications. So most websites and web applications or mobile applications are linked to some sort of database to store their data and retrieve their data. So let's go ahead and leverage that knowledge from spreadsheets to understand databases and see the similarities between them. So here we have a picture of looks like a normal spreadsheet. Here we have the columns. It's just a basic glucose tracking spreadsheet. And we have columns such as time, some measurements, etc., and various rows with different data points. And then at the bottom here we have tabs, which are referencing various sheets in the spreadsheet software. Here we're using Excel. So when we're transitioning from a spreadsheet to a database, we can think of a database's tables as the tabs of a spreadsheet. So since each of those tabs of the spreadsheet handles various types of data, or different rows and different columns, those tabs will translate to tables in a database. So that a database is made up of many tables. And then those tables are made up of rows and columns. So the columns in the table of a database is basically exactly what you would think as a column in a spreadsheet. It's just a vertical column that denotes a certain data type. So for instance, the first one here we have time. Second one we have measurements. So columns in spreadsheets are basically the same as columns in the table of a database. And then the other feature we have from a spreadsheet to a database is going to be rows. And rows, again, behave exactly like you would expect them to in a database table. They're just the actual row of all that data for a certain data point. So in this case, we're highlighting the data points 7, 8, and 9, and then all the measurements for those columns. So again, databases, instead of tabs, they're going to have tables, and those tables are also going to have rows and columns. And you can basically just imagine them as spreadsheets, just much larger that you can't individually click on. Okay, so again we have columns, rows, and instead of tabs we're going to have tables. So what are our database platform options? Well, there's actually lots of database platform options, a lot more than what I've put here, but here are some of the main ones. You have PostgreSQL, you have things such as MySQL, and MySQL Server Express, Microsoft Access, and then SQLite. Each of these has their pros and cons, but we're going to be focusing on PostgreSQL. The reason for this is because PostgreSQL is free, it's open source, it's widely used on the internet, it's multi-platform, so meaning if you have various operating systems, like Windows or Mac users, you can all use PostgreSQL. And one of my main reasons for choosing it is that it's super easy to install and just hit the ground running. So PostgreSQL is a great database choice for learning how to use SQL. And SQL is a structured query language, that's what it stands for, and it's what we're going to learn in this course. SQL is going to be the way we communicate with our database. It's the way we're going to be able to communicate with the database to get data out of it or put data into it. And the SQL learned in this course can be applied to a variety of databases or SQL-based software. So we're not going to pigeonhole ourselves to just PostgreSQL. What you learn in this course, you're going to be able to apply it to a variety of databases or software that uses SQL. So for example of what a general SQL syntax would look like, it would look something like this. Select some column names from a table, and then you have some functions or clauses. Here I'm ordering by the first name. So we're going to learn how to write and use SQL syntax like this in this course. So SQL is actually useful for a lot of things. Everything I've listed here runs on some sort of syntax of SQL. So you have PostgreSQL or MySQL or Oracle databases, Microsoft Access, etc. The basic databases you would think of that can use SQL, but there's also a lot of software out there that uses SQL as a way of interacting with your data, such as Looker or Periscope data. And there's also some abstractions that run on top of big data systems, such as Hadoop. And you can use SQL with Hive or Google's BigQuery or Facebook's Presto, which is basically using SQL to run on top of very large data systems that use distributed data. So SQL is going to be incredibly useful to operate a variety of tools and databases with. So you're also going to be notified if any of the SQL commands we learn in this course are specific to the PostgreSQL environment. Most of the commands we learn are actually just going to be general SQL, so you won't get too many of these notifications. Basically everything you learn here, you're going to be able to apply directly to any conventional SQL database. Okay, let's go ahead and review what we learned. We learned what a database is, why we should use a database. We learned about the various SQL options, and we also learned how to use SQL skills in this course and how we're going to be able to apply them to many other software programs. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and continue and learn some more. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture.